Tonight at 10. Israeli troops shot dead 6 Palestinians taking part in protests in Gaza following a series of stabbings and shootings across Israel, Jerusalem and the occupied West Bank, intensifying a wave of Middle East violence. Daesh terrorists advanced to the outskirts of Syria's second city of Aleppo, seizing villages despite Russian raids that had killed hundreds of terrorists and hit more than 60 targets over the past 24 hours. And Tunisia's National Dialogue Quartet wins the Nobel Peace Prize for helping build democracy in the birthplace of the Arab Spring. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. Jordan severely condemned the ongoing Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people, as well as the Israeli occupation forces murdering of unarmed Palestinian citizens in West Bank and Gaza Strip. Minister of State for Media Affairs and Communications Mohammed Momeni said that the murdering of the Palestinian citizens is a clear evidence of the Israeli violations against human rights, noting that this crime is added to a series of Israeli crimes against Palestinian people. Momeni urged the international community to take immediate action and oblige Israel to put an immediate end to its aggressions, while warning of the repercussions of the continued Israeli aggressions. Jordanians belonging to various parties march in a number of cities across the kingdom to condemn the Israeli violations against Jerusalem and its holy sites. Protests held up signs in support of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and chanted slogans against the continuous Israeli violations in the holy city. They also praised the stance of the Jordanian people and their leadership in support of the people of Jerusalem and their efforts to confront the continued Israeli provocative acts. Tensions between Israelis and Palestinians continue to escalate following a series of stabbing attacks throughout Israel and the West Bank. At least 6 Palestinians were killed and over 60 were wounded during clashes with Israeli forces near the Gaza border fence. The Israeli soldiers shot across the border after the Palestinians allegedly came too close to the frontier, throwing stones and rolling burning tires. Gazans were gathering in a demonstration dubbed in a solidarity with Palestinians in the occupied West Bank and Jerusalem, where tensions have surged in 10 days of violence. In the Jewish settlement of Kiryat Arba, near the West Bank city of Hebron, a Palestinian was killed after he stabbed an Israeli police officer in the arm and tried to take his weapon. Early in the day, a Jewish assailant stabbed 4 Arab men in the southern Israeli city of Daimuna. The mayor of Daimuna said a Jewish suspect was arrested, while in the northern city of Afula, an Israeli Arab woman was shot several times and wounded by Israeli police as she held up a knife. Israeli police claimed she had tried to stab a bus station guard, although video footage of the incident did not show that. There was also a violence in the West Bank city of Ramallah, with video footage showing an Israeli army jeep running over a stone-throwing Palestinian who was wounded. Russia's defense ministry said its planes had struck the headquarters of the Liwa al-Haq group in the Al-Raqqa province in Syria, killing 200 insurgents, including 2 Daesh field commanders. A representative of Russia's defense ministry said in the last 24 hours, 67 sorties were flown, striking 60 terrorist objects. In separate attacks in the Aleppo region, the ministry said its planes had killed a further 100 insurgents. It added that the strikes also hit a base and weapons warehouse in the building of a former prison. Meanwhile, the US-led coalition launched 70 airstrikes against Daesh terrorists in Syria and Iraq over the past 24 hours. In a statement, the Combined Joint Task Force said the 2 strikes in Syria hit Al-Raqqa and Ma'ara, while in Iraq 15 strikes targeted the group near 8 cities, including Ramadi and Sinjar. On the ground, and despite the Russian air and sea campaign and the US-led coalition strikes, Daesh terrorist group has seized villages close to the Syrian city of Aleppo from rival groups. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the terrorist group is now within 2 kilometers of government-held territory on the front in the northern edge of Aleppo. It said the terrorists seized the villages of Tel al-Qura, Tel Susan, Tel Kafar Quaris, and seized a former army base known as the Infantry Academy that rebels captured from the Syrian army 2 years ago. The observatory said Daesh is advanced north of Aleppo, which began last night, in the most significant in months. And meanwhile, Iranian state media reported that a senior commander in Iran's Revolutionary Guard was killed on the outskirts of Aleppo city, but it was not immediately clear whether General Hussein Hamadani's death was related to the new offensive. U.S. President Barack Obama will overhaul Washington's approach to supporting Syrian rebel forces following this year's deeply troubled launch of a U.S. military training program. Defense Secretary Ash Carter made the announcement today in London. In May, the U.S. military began training for up to 5,400 fighters a year in what was seen as a test of Obama's strategy of having local partners combat Daesh terrorists and keep U.S. troops off the front lines. But the program was troubled from the start, with some of the first class of less than 60 fighters coming under attack from Al-Qaeda's Syria wing, Nusra Front, in their battlefield debut. Reports suggest that the Obama administration was considering extending support to thousands of Syrian rebel fighters, possibly with arms and airstrikes, as part of the revamped approach to Syria.
We have been looking for now several weeks at ways to improve that program. I wasn't satisfied with the early efforts in that regard, and so we're looking at different ways to achieve basically the same kind of strategic objective, which is the right one, which is to enable capable, motivated forces on the ground to retake territory from ISIL and reclaim Syrian territory from extremism.
At the Vatican, meanwhile, Pope Francis made a further appeal for peace and reconciliation in the Middle East at the opening of the morning session of the Synod Assembly. We are painfully struck and follow with great concern what is happening in Syria and Iraq, Jerusalem and the West Bank, where we see an escalation of violence involving innocent civilians that continues to feed a humanitarian crisis of enormous proportions, he said. The Pope called for the conflicts to be resolved via international law.
I send a heartfelt appeal to the international community that the nations of the world might find a way effectively to help the parties concerned to broaden their horizons beyond the immediate interests and to use the instruments of the international law and diplomacy to resolve the conflicts underway at present.
Tunisia's National Dialogue Quartet won the Nobel Peace Prize for its contribution to building democracy after the Jasmine Revolution in 2011. Formed in the summer of 2013, the quartet helped support the democratization process in Tunisia when it was in danger of collapsing. Members of the Tunisian negotiating team that won the Nobel Peace Prize called the award a message for the region on the power of dialogue. This report has more.
When Tunisians took to the streets in 2011, few could have guessed where their country was going. Their uprising inspired the Arab Spring, yet Tunisia has largely avoided the chaos that ensued elsewhere. Tunisia has found democracy, ushered in by the Tunisian National Dialogue Quartet, this year's winner of the Nobel Peace Prize.
It established an alternative, peaceful political process at a time when the country was on the brink of civil war.
The quartet, made up of a labor union and industry confederation, a human rights group, and a lawyer group, formed in 2013 when the country appeared to be sliding into a political crisis. A secular opposition and a ruling Islamist party were going head-to-head, but negotiations prevailed. A caretaker government was formed, and successful legislative and presidential elections were held last year, making Tunisia the model of transition from dictatorship to democracy. Tunisians say the prize is well deserved.
It's huge pride for all Tunisians, and as a Tunisian, I feel very proud. The quartet represents the whole country.
Thank God we had these 4 organizations that looked after the national dialogue. I hope we'll go further, for the better for our country.
The Nobel Peace Prize will be presented in Oslo in December.
Muscovites woke up to find the streets of the city covered in snow. 20 centimeters of snow had fallen over the past 24 hours. The large, early snowstorm disrupted flights and created havoc on the roads, with over 6,000 vehicles put on the streets of the city to clear the snow. Minus temperatures and further snowfall are expected. Weather experts expected the snowstorm to be the biggest in November in 50 years. The world's largest collection of Harry Potter memorabilia has gone on display in the private home of its owner in Mexico City, bringing together thousands of pieces collected by the local lawyer over the course of 15 years. From figures, wands and a Lego model of Hogwarts, the owner, Menahem Asher Silva Vargas, has amassed the world's largest collection of all Harry Potter's gadgets, according to Guinness. The collection spans the 8 movies and 7 books of the series. Over 400 million copies of the Harry Potter books have been sold worldwide, making J.K. Rowling the world's first billionaire author.
La idea de que en México somos líderes, sí, porque la que yo tenía, que está allá, son los sellos. Tenemos que trabajar todos nuestros maestros así.
FIFA's executive committee is discussing delaying the election for the next president following the suspensions given to Sepp Blatter and Michel Platini. FIFA said that a decision whether to hold an emergency meeting would likely be made next week in Zurich to make a decision to postpone the vote scheduled for February 26 next year. The deadline for the nominations for candidates for the FIFA presidency is due to end on the 26th of October, but a change in the date of the vote could see that deadline move.
Welcome to Anfield.
Liverpool have confirmed the appointment of Jurgen Klopp as their new manager to replace sacked manager Brendan Rodgers. The former Borussia Dortmund boss said working for the club is the biggest honor that he can imagine and set himself a target of a league title within 4 years. British media reports put the values of Klopp's contract at a basic £5 million per year, with bonuses taken to a potential £7 million. And in tennis, third seed Rafael Nadal made it through to the semi-finals of the China Open, defeating Jack Sock of the USA 3-6, 6-4, 6-4. Nadal's semi-final opponent will be Fabio Fognini of Italy. Novak Djokovic also reached the semi-finals in Beijing after demolishing American John Isner. And now for a look at the weather forecast. It will continue to be relatively cold in most regions and moderate in the Jordan Valley and the Gulf of Aqaba, while winds will be northwesterly moderate. As of tomorrow, moderate and pleasant conditions will prevail in most parts of the kingdom, with westerly to northwesterly moderate winds. The Gulf Aqaba should expect relatively hot conditions with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here are our top stories once again. Israeli troops shot dead 6 Palestinians taking part in protests in Gaza following a series of stabbings and shootings across Israel, Jerusalem and the occupied West Bank, intensifying wave of Middle East violence. Daesh terrorists advanced to the outskirts of Syria's second city of Aleppo, seizing villages despite Russian raids that had killed hundreds of terrorists and hit more than 60 targets over the past 24 hours. And Tunisia's National Dialogue Quartet wins the Nobel Peace Prize for helping build democracy in the birthplace of the Arab Spring. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Luay Balkar. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.